No license required. Yeah, you heard me. This little single-seat, all-metal airplane is Part 103 legal. Now that doesn't mean I'm suggesting you jump right in and go flying. Get a few hours of transition training in first. Introducing the Merlin Lite. Alright, today I'm in Lakeland, South Lakeland Airfield actually, here to check out the Merlin Lite.
My name is Chip Erwin, Aero Marine, and I've got a bit of history, about 40 years now at Oshkosh alone. I haven't missed a year except when they didn't have it. You might know me from some of the other aircraft designs, the Sport Cruiser, Mermaid, and some of the other airplanes similar to that, and a lot of aircraft floats. And now I've introduced the single-seat Merlin a few years ago, and that's selling well. We have a new engine for that we'll talk about later, the new V-twin. And then a little other project that has been on the back burner for about 5 years, and decided to move it up because ultralights are becoming more popular. And so we have an ultralight that's completely different than your normal tube and fabric ultralight. It does have a two-stroke engine on, but it's a nice Polini liquid cooled dual ignition, and for two strokes, which people are often nervous about for good reasons. At Oshkosh, I've had 3 engine outs alone. And they've come a long way, and they're much, much better now. Electric start and slipper clutch and smooth running, very reliable. They make them by the tens of thousands for scooters and thousands more for PPG. So they're really well tested. And the new airplane, the Merlin Lite, is quite a bit different than your 80s ultralight. It's not tube and fabric. It has a lot of things that ultralights don't have, like all aluminum, 7 windows, the door, the EFIS, the kind of Tundra tires. It's all relative. For this size airplane, those are pretty big tires. Hydraulic brakes, electric trim, push rod controls, cantilevered wing. I might be repeating myself, but that's a lot of things you don't find all in one spot. And a few ultralights have flaps, but this one's got a fuller flap. And this prototype is not quite what we're offering on the market. We have a longer wing with a longer flap, and we'll have a high aspect ratio. It'll be very efficient, fly very nicely, and excellent on low power. So that's how we can make the weight limit.
So being this is very much a unique aircraft, that it is an ultralight, but looks more like a small certified aircraft, could you share maybe how is that possible?
Yeah, small is the new large, I guess. It's a lot of it is due to the CATIA high-end software, the 3D software that's available now. You can do it on SolidWorks too. And to make a really efficient wing, that's actually kind of a piece of art. You really wouldn't be able to do that in your home shop or even a small factory. Every rib, every nose rib, every rear rib, every flap rib and aileron rib, every one part is different, because it's just perfectly tapered. And because when I was making the Sport Cruiser, we moved into matched hole technology, which we used a turret punch press to punch in all the holes and cut all the ribs, and it was really great. But it was only a pilot hole, and then we still had to drill and deburr all the 5,000 holes. But this software is so perfect that the holes on a flat skin and then a flat rib, and then the rib is bent and formed, and lightning holes put in, and the holes still match perfectly. When you put this airplane together, you rarely need to chase a hole. You just drop the rivets in. Hundreds of rivets are just dropping in place perfectly.
Let's take just a minute to enjoy this beautiful blue sky and thank our sponsors. Great companies like Airworx, Airtech Coatings, Clemens Insurance Agency. These sponsors make all of this original aviation content possible. So I invite you after this video to check out the links below and say hello to our sponsors. Tell them you found them here on the Experimental Aircraft channel. Thank you to everyone for your support. Let's jump back in.
So there's really no wasted aluminum, no extra material. It's just the bare minimum. There's not even a strut. It's a cantilevered wing, which sometimes can be heavier, but we have our own testing lab, and it's a +4 -2G aircraft. And then there's a few composites: the door, the wing tips, the landing gear. We're making a foam core landing gear, and we'll save a kilo there. We're putting the new Polini 303 on instead of the 250, which is now, this is the state-of-the-art engine. The 303 is even better, 2 more horsepower and 1 kilogram less. We'll save a little there. We have 2-blade prop that's a little bit longer. The longer wing will add a little weight. The tricycle gear, which we'll move to, will add a little bit of weight. But we don't need, it's a 3.5 pound door, which you don't need for flying. So you're allowed to weigh the airplane without the door and save a little bit of weight there. And this plane is just the beat up prototype, and it's not painted. Painting would be very nice on aluminum, but if we really need to save the weight, we have a clear coat that weighs less than a pound. We can polish the airplane and put the clear coat on. You never have to polish it again. And you have a very light, nice looking airplane and just put on vinyl graphics.
So this is constructed, I assume, of 6061 T6?
That's correct.
And primarily 016, and then bulkheads might be thicker than that?
Right, right. Wherever that needs to be thicker, it is. You know, spar webbing and attachment points, and that you know, it's pretty normal to have a variety of thicknesses and even some 4130 steel in the control parts and gear attachment parts.
And as you mentioned before, this is not control cable, this is all push rod.
Yeah,
correct?
Except for the rudder cable. It's all push rod, and it's incredibly sophisticated. I've never seen this in any experimental aircraft. Of course, maybe I've never looked at every one, so I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but you have a bell crank. In the bell crank you have a bearing, and then on the fork there's another bearing, and it just some of the rocker joints and bell cranks and bell arms have three bearings on them. It's just perfectly smooth. You know, the detail work on here is incredible. There's no shortcuts taken on this. It's just it's the same or higher quality than most GA aircraft or a lot of experimentals.
Chip, with this 36 horsepower engine, talk to us about the flight characteristics and performance numbers, if you will.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly because everything's changing. With the tricycle gear, we'll actually take off quicker, and the reason is because this is such a light airplane, and it's really good power to weight ratio that you really can't even give it full power. You have to accelerate a little bit slower than you would with a tricycle. Tricycle, you can just put it in full power and pull the stick back and rotate, and you're flying. And here, just maybe two seconds longer with the tail dragger. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but the ultralights, that's the fun part of them. They take off slow with that slow stall speed, and especially with our bigger wing and we have a 40-degree flap. We'll use 20 for takeoff, and that's going to take it off. You're going to be in the air under 100 feet easy.
So that being said, what would this climb out at, like feet per minute?
Well, see, that's
miles
another
per
thing I just have to speculate at, but it's an acceptable rate of climb is anything over 500 feet a minute, which we already have. I don't know the exact number yet till we're done with all our testing and put the new engine on and the new gear and the new wing. One of the most popular questions is how fast does it go? Well, you know, I guess in ultralights, the faster you go, the more my eyes water and the heart and the bugs hurt. So I've never really thought ultralights that was a valid question for any ultralight because they're not going anywhere. So what's the point of putting bigger engines on that weigh more and cost more to operate, burn more fuel? They climb faster, but if it climbs at an acceptable rate, then use a more economical engine. This at cruise is less than a gallon an hour of auto fuel, so it's very economical to run. So how fast does it go is how fast can you go under Part 103. And you're limited to 55 knots. And there's a lot of ambiguity in that. Does that mean full power? Is that full power or maximum continuous power? Or is that at sea level or at altitude, true airspeed? I mean, there's, numbers never lie, but you can manipulate. They can be manipulated. So this airplane, and you don't want to limit there's different ways to limit it mechanically with the throttle, but then you're not going to have maximum climb, and a lot of times you're going to need your throttle, or sometimes you want that climb. The power is important. So I don't agree with limiting the throttle, that mechanic, but you can easily adjust the propeller, and you can put it to climb, and that's going to limit your cruise speed. You have excellent climb, and then pick the pitch that gives you 55 knots at your maximum continuous power, and you're fully compliant.
As you mentioned, this is more of the prototype and proof of concept. When will the production models be available to ship?
Excellent question. Well, we spent the last few months since we introduced this in September. We finished the wing first, because that's very complex, the most complex part of the aircraft. And that's done and shipped, and it fits this airplane. So we put it on this airplane to do it for doing some a benchmarking test to compare the two. But meanwhile, we've had a dozen other changes in fine-tuning the control system, the tricycle gear, and T-tail. T-tail's not on this airplane, but that's the production airplane. It's more efficient. It's out of the wash of the wing, so you can actually use a smaller horizontal stabilizer and elevator, and which saves weight for the same effectiveness. And that's why a lot of gliders and motor gliders are T-tail. So that's a big change. And so all that design work is done, and now we're starting to make the parts. So we're making batches of parts to put together the production line of aircraft. We expect the first airplanes to be ready in May. And then once we get the pump primed, getting the parts made, getting assembly, then substations made for assembly, and then we'll be making plenty of aircraft. So it takes a little while to get it going, but once it does, there's plenty of supply.
Do you have a ballpark? I'm sure numbers are going to change as you change this around, but of what the kit or ready to fly costs will be?
We're offering it in two ways. The kit is a completely finished airframe, and what's left to do is the panel, which can be done in a couple hours, because you hardly put anything in it, maybe even less, and put an engine on. So that allows the builders to choose a different engine. They can use a lighter, smaller engine if they want to add different options to the airplane and still make Part 103. They can't really go a whole lot bigger than this, because this is the engine and weight it's designed for. And the other one is the ready to fly. So it'd be, there's a few options available. What do you want on your panel? Which parachute, if you want one, and electric trim is standard. Cabin heat, for example, and maybe painting, and then your airplane comes finished, customized, and test flown, and then we'll put the wings on and deliver it.
And what will be the price point for each of those? Again, ballpark.
Yeah, ballpark is 20,000, under 20 for the bare bones kit. I think it's maybe 18. And again, there's no assembly. There's zero, because in experimental aircraft, the manufacturers always quote build time of the airframe. And a lot of customers don't understand that. They say, well, it's 500 hours to build, but that's the airframe. And the reason they do that is because and it's a good reason, they don't know what the panel's going to be, which can add hundreds of hours. They don't know what engine's going to be, if it's not just a plug and play engine they've already developed the firewall forward package for, or something different.
All right, Chip. So where can people find more information about you online and follow when this is available. And you just mentioned you're going to be at Sun and Fun this year, so we'll get to see it in person.
Yes, we're going to have our display at Paradise City. We'll have the Merlin, this Merlin Lite. We'll have a normal Merlin there, and we'll have the new V-twin, and we'll have the V-twin installed on a trike. So you'll be able to see different installations, a pusher on the V-twin on a different aircraft, because it's a replacement for 582s and for the HKS. So we could talk more about that later. The show will be big for us. It always is. It's a nice, friendly Florida show. And then we've got our website, aeromarine-lsa.com, and where I blog the most of anything that I actually accomplish or make some progress or some new information. I put on a blog, and then I link that blog on Facebook, so you don't have to surf. You can just follow me on Facebook, and then you'll get notified when there's a new blog to read.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Experimental Aircraft Channel. We invite you to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that bell for future notifications. Check out our brand new website at experimentalaircraftchannel.com, where you'll find many more original aviation content videos, links to all of our sponsors, upcoming events, and in the very near future, official Experimental Aircraft Channel merchandise. Find us everywhere on social at Experimental Aircraft Channel. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.